All right, cool. All right. Say your name so I make sure I get it right.
This is Shel Kimen, live from Detroit.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Rethinking the City. My good friend Pat Green is going to do a little bit of an intro. Pat's world famous everything. Everything. Shel Kimen. Shel Kimen. Shel. As in Shel.
Is she going first?
Yeah, she's going first.
Collision Detroit now.
Collision works.
Collision works. Hi everybody. We shouldn't touch metal. We have a thunderstorm in the works. But this is Rethinking the City, and we've been doing it for how long have we been doing it, Julie?
2 years? Almost.
2 years? Maybe 2 years.
2.5 years?
3 years? No.
I don't know.
No, 2.5 years. 2 years. So we've been doing it. We do a monthly event, and then we have a radio show Monday 4 to 5 p.m. at Rollins, WPRK, which we're trying to link a little bit better to this event. We can take over Mark Baratelli's empire. So tonight we have Paul, an old friend, which is not old, masters, from Rethink. You guys know about Rethink? You guys know what we call it anyway, right? So she'll tell you a little bit. And Shel
Kimen
from Collision Works in Detroit, who we scheduled her about a year ago, right?
Yeah, almost.
A while ago.
Yeah.
So you're first?
You're first.
Okay.
And that's
So she can't see you because
that's
she's looking at me.
I forgot that. I realized that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, as Pat said, I always like to give Pat, because he's a man about the world, like a living legend. He's the world's most interesting man. The opportunity to sort of lay out Rethinking the City. The Rethinking the City, of course, is a monthly symposium, a radio program, and apparently now like a blog with like monthly, daily updates. I'll hear more about that later, I'm sure. So the monthly program this month is, I'm sort of taking the lead. My name's Julian Chambliss. I'm a professor at Rollins College. I look at urban development and imagine urban spaces. That's a good way to say it. I'm the one who came up with the idea of this particular month, and Shel is coming to us live from Detroit. And so I'm just going to throw it over to you. Say your name and let people know who you are.
Okay. Hi.
They're in the background.
I know, I can see some people. Yes, I see waving. That's awesome. Thank you. My name is and I am in Detroit. It's not snowing, so that's exciting. I'm going to share my screen. I think what I'm going to do is kind of talk about the process of how I got to where I am in this sort of very ambitious project that started off as one thing and many times over has turned into something else. And I think that has been a very valuable and important lesson for me to realize the inevitable changes and fluidity whenever we're trying to build something, whether it's a business or an organization or even just a project. So
just for those of us that don't know, that didn't necessarily look up stuff online, could you sort of like to give the name of your project and like your overall goal for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the project is called Collision Works. And we are a hybrid profit nonprofit organization. So there's two discrete halves that are interdependent, leading to sustainability and growth for both. We are a community development project and a boutique hotel that together are trying to connect people through personal stories. So ultimately what we're trying to do is build empathy between different groups of people, typically people that wouldn't be at the same table together. And the way we do that is through personal stories. So from an organizational perspective, that's programs and activities that bring people together. For example, we're launching a buddy program in June. Sorry, my screen is beeping at me. we're launching a buddy program in June that is matching up native lifelong Detroiters with new Detroiters moving to the city, because that's been a deep, deep source of fragmentation and friction within our community. And facilitating opportunities for these people to get together. In the context of a hotel, it's more about, imagine a hotel that's filled with authentic stories from the people of Detroit, right? On the walls, underneath the pillow, throughout the lobby experience. And that's designed to help visitors to the city understand more intimately what's actually going on here, because we've all heard about Detroit, and we all have our ideas about what's happening here, and we're either, you know, a post-apocalyptic war zone, or, you know, we're the utopia for the new economy, and actually we're not either of those things. We're somewhere in between a lot of that and others. So I don't know, I'm just going to run through some pictures and talk about the project and answer questions as we go.
Okay.
Cool. All right, let's see here. Screen sharing. You guys see you?
We do.
All right. And now do you see a PowerPoint or a picture?
Very big, and to see it as something else.
Yes. All right. So here's what happened. For about 14 years, I was living in this city, which is New York City, and I was the executive leading digital strategy of a major advertising agency. And I had a wonderful job with a beautiful view. It paid well, and for the most part, I enjoyed work. Except that at some point, as I was edging closer to 40, I realized that I was helping people sell stuff I wouldn't buy myself. And I went on this journey to figure out, well, how do I want to be in the world, and what do I want to do with these connections and experiences that I've gathered? So I moved here. And there's a lot of reasons I moved to Detroit: family history. I went to college in Michigan. You know, I think the real story is I believed the hype. I believed, you know, I believed about the new creative renaissance and all of the sparkly social enterprise businesses that were coming here, and the urban farming and the new, you know, the new urban utopia. You know, yeah, it's just what I believed. And I had it in my head that I was going to make a hotel. There were all these creative, interesting people coming to Detroit: urban planners, architects, designers. But there wasn't actually a cool place for them to stay. There wasn't a single boutique hotel in the entire city, which is staggering to me. And as a creative professional, I don't know, I just couldn't believe it. I also thought it would be cool to do a hotel because all of these creative professionals were coming to Detroit to do work on the city. They didn't actually know anything about the city, you know, so they were urban planning us and urban renewing things without actually having real contact with what was going on. So I thought the hotel would be cool. It would be in an old historic building, because that's what you do in Detroit. You buy an old historic building and you renovate it, and you know, you have cool old warehouse features, and you add in some hipster stuff, and you know, maybe you attract some other creative professionals. Maybe you have places for people to work and hang out. And, you know, I still had this idea of stories even back then. So, you know, you have a place for events for people to tell their personal stories in hopes of creating some kind of meaningful connection. And I called it the Detroit Hotel Project. But then I really moved here. You know, I left New York. I stopped thinking about it from afar. And I bought a house in this neighborhood. This is on the east side of Detroit, a neighborhood called Jefferson Chalmers. And I started to learn about the community here. This is actually the first woman that was elected to city council on her retirement. And I started to realize that the cool part of this project wasn't a hip, sparkly urban utopia boutique hotel, but it was actually much more grassroots, and it was much more about coming together, and that was the exciting part. And I think as a, I guess we talk about change makers. As a change maker, the very valuable lesson I learned is it's about people. Ultimately it's about people, and it's about bottom up instead of top down. And I couldn't find a historic building. I mean, there were plenty, but the real estate market in Detroit, as in many cities, is very squirrely. Perhaps a little more squirrely here because everybody's waiting for the gold rush, essentially. So people sit on these buildings for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They fall apart. They don't do anything to them, and then by the time someone comes to fix it, the cost of renovation is prohibitive, especially for my business model. And no land. Now, isn't that funny? I mean, we live in a city full of, acres and acres and acres, dozens of acres, hundreds of acres of empty land, miles and miles of empty land. Yet sometimes it's really hard to get a hold of, or it's hard to get a hold of land in the right place. And, wow, money. So meanwhile, I had just been spending all of my money on this project myself. Spending my savings, spending my 401k, really just trying to bootstrap it. Uh-oh. So we went back to the drawing board, and this is actually not from my team, but just to kind of talk for a minute that, I come from a place of, design thinking and design strategy, and we use a lot of Post-it notes and really try to break ideas down and look for patterns and rethink things. And as I was rethinking things, I did what designers do, and I walk around and I look and I see what's around me, and I think about what can I use that we already have. And in Detroit, we have a lot of shipping containers. And then I started to think about where would we put this? Maybe we could build it with shipping containers, but we still have the land issue. And it's not just a land availability or access issue, it's also a location, because this project has moved from being kind of a hipster boutique hotel to now a grassroots community endeavor, and it can't just be anywhere. A lot of times people think, oh, you're doing a boutique hotel, you have to put it in downtown Detroit. Well, I guess, except if the people that I want to participate in the programming and the experiences that we're offering don't like downtown Detroit because they don't feel like it's for them, then downtown's not going to work. Parking's expensive. The only reason people go downtown is because they have to pay a tax bill or go to a city job that they hate. Downtown has seen $6 billion in private investment in the last 2 years, and the fire department in the middle to outer ring of the city can't even have toilet paper. So this is a picture of Eastern Market, and I hear you guys are also in Eastern Market. Eastern Market is a neighborhood in Detroit where we have the longest permanent structure, a continuously running farmers market. This farmers market has been going on since I think 1891, and it's actually still a working market. So there's a wholesale market, from midnight to 5 a.m. There's still lots of wholesale produce. It's a very working class community, which also has artist lofts. And it's also one of the only places in the city where people feel comfortable going. And I've spent a lot of time on this, not because this is such a pretty picture, because really the picture is kind of boring, but location is so important if you're creating a space that you want people to come together. You want people to feel comfortable, and Eastern Market is one of the only places where that actually happens in the city of Detroit. Another place is the riverfront. Other than that, it's very, very segregated. And this is a piece of property that the city owned that we were able to take control of, which is on a greenway called the DeQuinder Cut. We changed the name from Detroit Hotel Project to Collision Works because I really do believe that collision works. When you take people from different backgrounds and experiences and you put them in the same room together, wild, unexpected things can happen, and sometimes those things are very, very good. So we've got this shipping container hotel idea thing. This is an illustration that some students from the University of Detroit Mercy put together for me. That shows it on the property with some green swamp kind of stuff that's happening in another related environmental project near the property. And then this is a rendering that an architect that I'm working with now put together that gets a little more at what it might look like and the way you might stack these containers and how you might configure space. And you can see the greenway on the left where people like jog and bike. Right, that greenway goes all the way down to the river, and this is a new extension of that greenway that should be finished in November. So it's pretty exciting that you can walk outside and go straight to the river. So that's all good and fun, but remember we had no funding, so kind of going back to basics, we thought, well, maybe we should show people what it looks like, and maybe we should do some experiments. So I ran a Kickstarter campaign last year where we were requesting $37,000 to build this prototype, and we did actually succeed. We raised $41,000 in 2.5 weeks. And the architect drew this plan of what we might make out of that, which very ambitious. This is a little more like the way we operate. It's a sketch on a piece of paper about where we might put it and how it might be laid out. And then it arrived. We got this container actually from New York, not from Detroit, which was a big disappointment for a lot of different reasons. But because of the time frame we were on and because of the vendor that I was working with, that's just what happened, and we just had to move with it. So we got this beautiful container. We set it down. We started to do some work, did some more work, worked all night, and in 9 days we had this, which was no small feat. And it's designed to be very eclectic, again, because we're trying to attract a big variety of people to this space. There's nods to mid-century modern, which is really important for Michigan history. There's also that table on the front is a North African table, and there's some other African details around the space. Detroit is 82% African American, and it's extremely important that this project, like any new project in the city, reflects its population and speaks to its population. Here's another shot of the interior. This was our launch day. That's a storyteller that's involved in our project. His name's Ivory Williams, and he's really good at engaging people and getting them to talk to each other. We have no shortage of fun, hula hooping. This is a group of people that have become core volunteers of the program. We don't really call them volunteers, we call them friends. So these are collision work friends, and we actually meet monthly, not just to talk about where the project is at, but also to prototype ideas. We practice empathy building exercises together and figure out what we might bring to a broader audience. We started doing events. I did a Detroit author series, so this is in the middle is Shaka Senghor. He's got quite an amazing story. He spent 19 years in prison, starting from the time he was 19 years old, for a drug-related murder, and he's come out on the other side, mentoring youth. He's a fellow at MIT. He's teaching classes at University of Michigan, and he's got this wonderful book called Righting My Wrongs, which is sort of the kickoff to his nonprofit, which is called the Atonement Project, which is taking returning citizens and matching them up with kids to help get them on the right path. So we did this author series where we brought in different authors that wrote books about Detroit, and we did a book lending and sharing program, and then had the authors come in and sort of lead a panel discussion All of these books that we selected had provocative questions and topics which provoked really wonderful conversations, again, between people that wouldn't normally be hanging out together. This is Mark Bonelli, whose book Detroit City is the Place to Be. Is a very good and fresh, honest look at what's going on in the city. It's one of the only truly balanced contemporary books or perspectives that I've read about Detroit recently. And then we did a lot of grassroots organizations just because we had space. One of the great things about making space is that, you know, people come and people need to use it. So this was a group of women that have a dance club, senior women, and they wanted to do their end of the season recital somewhere. And so I said, sure, you can do it here. Maybe we could have some storytelling related, you know, to the event. And so these women started telling stories about what got them into dance, and it was beautiful. I mean, like, two women were actually crying when they were telling these stories about how they found their body and they found their sexuality later in life through dance. And so these kinds of personal connections allow other people that are in the audience or in the room to, you know, feel maybe less alone. This was us preparing for the Detroit Design Festival. These are, again, more of the Collision Works friends. We were doing a story box project where we made these boxes, which it took a long time to make, simple little boxes. And we put them in area businesses and asked people to leave stories about their experiences in those places. So what started off as a project thinking I was going after these people ended up as a project that looked more like this. And a lot of these people have been in the space. And what started off as a nifty hotel project has really turned into more of a system of story boxes, story centers, and story cities. And that's really, I mean, it's a big project. Story boxes are sort of neighborhood intervention, kind of like our first container, only instead of just being an Easter market, having them be in different communities. Story centers are the bigger community center where these boxes come together, and the story cities is when you add in the hotel or residential and build an ecology. And these are just some things that I learned, which we don't have to dwell on, but it's really about not being afraid, not forcing things, letting go of control, knowing you're going to make your mistakes, and have fun. So that was a lot really quick. I hope that was all right. I can't tell because I couldn't see you guys, so I didn't know if I was like losing people. Did I?
Great.
Wait.
So we have for a few more minutes, so I think some people have some questions. If you are.
Can you just tell me real quick if I unscreen shared?
You're off of it now.
Okay. Okay.
You're off of screen share. Now it's back and forth. We can see you, you can see us.
Okay.
So does anybody have any questions?
I don't know if you can hear me?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, sorry if I missed it, but what gave you the idea to get into the boutique hotel business?
Yeah, I mean, it started. I mean, that's a big question. I think part of it is my whole career has been around engaging people, whether, it used to be around brands and products and services, or I have a whole other side of my life that's art related. And I realized that there were just all these people coming to Detroit that weren't really getting into the city, and I think that hotels do a really bad job of integrating people into the communities that they're visiting, and there's a huge opportunity to sort of change how we think about hotels. Hostels have been doing this for a long, long time, but the type of traveler that's looking for a boutique hotel is just sort of an adult version of someone that would go to a hostel, and frankly, I know a lot of adults, including myself, that like hostels and prefer hostels because you get to meet people. So
Yeah.
I wanted to connect people in a more meaningful way, people that were visiting the city, and I thought that a hotel was a great way to catch these people.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that. We have the same issue here in Orlando, and I'm kind of trying to jump on board with another partner of mine to bring more people downtown. We have, I think I think we're #1 in the country with hotel rooms, but 98% of those are surrounding Disney World. So we kind of have the same issue over here, and I didn't expect to see this today, but I'm thankful to hear the story from you and someone doing that up in Detroit, because I think we need that to be done down here also. We just don't have enough hotels in the downtown business corridor where all the fun happens, where all the local and cultural flavor of Orlando lies. So it was just interesting to hear that from someone else. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's a I come from marketing and advertising primarily, and it's a branding issue. You have people that they want to connect and they want to understand, and then they don't have real opportunities. I think it's fascinating that I don't know how many people are familiar with the service Airbnb,
Oh, yeah.
but it's an online website where you can pay to you find a room in someone's home essentially, and you can pay a little bit or a lot, and it's wildly popular. In fact, it's so popular that last year Airbnb sold over 10 million rooms worldwide, which is larger than any international hotel flag brand. I mean, 10 million rooms. And they're doing it not because it's less expensive, because in a lot of cases it's not less expensive. They're doing it because they want to meet real people. And I think it's hilarious and sad and a shame that the hospitality industry, which is so hyper efficient and committed to its bottom line, has really missed out on this opportunity to not just, I don't know, store people that are visiting, but actually welcome people and integrate them into the city in ways that are more meaningful than that silly little magazine that you get in the desk, Welcome to Disney World.
Shel, you just finished the first container. Do you have an idea? You talked about the different models at the end of your presentation. Do you have an idea about what's your next sort of model that you want to try to pursue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, we're going to be kicking off the buddy program. It's called Collision Pals in June. I've got a lot of really cool local sponsors and organizations lined up to participate in that. But the kind of big next step for the nonprofit side of things is a mentorship program called Collision Labs. And that's where we take 2 shipping containers and we put them in a neighborhood. One is a lounge like First Container, and the other is a lab with computers and Adobe products. And we basically take 6 kids every 12 weeks for a mentoring program. And in that mentoring program, the kids are teamed up with very skilled designers and faculty from some of the local design schools and coached to create a design from one of their personal stories. We then take those designs and reprint it onto things like coffee mugs, wall art, postcards, and throw pillows, which are things that we can sell online, we can sell in local retail throughout Detroit, but most importantly, when we get the hotel part up and running, we can sell these things in the room of the hotel. And what that does is it creates not just skills for these kids, but actual genuine wealth. The way the model works, each kid that goes through the program, the year after they finish the program and their items have had a chance to be in the hotel, each kid should make a minimum of $7,500, which is enough for a year or 2 of college, just from royalties from their designs. And the program actually is able to sustain itself and create a surplus so that at the end of each year, the kids in that program decide which neighborhood they want to give the next Storybox kit, Collision Labs to, right? So every year the program doubles. So if the model works correctly, which it's feeling pretty good, by 2020 we should have 288 kids making $1.2 million. And that money goes back to the program, to the kids. The hotel gets a cut, of course, and the wholesale prices. So that's pretty cool. And I imagine that's going to spin off into its own entity at some point, but we're trying to get that launched in the fall.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Information where we can find her?
Yeah, Shel, could you give us the rundown on how we can follow up with you and help you out or find you online and find out more about what's going on?
Awesome, yeah. So DetroitCollisionWorks.com is the website. And it's actually just about to get a facelift, so what it looks like today is probably not what it's going to look like next week, but that's exciting for me and hopefully for everybody else, because right now I don't think the website tells the story as well as it should. And that's the big problem with a project like this. It's ambitious, it's got a lot of tentacles, and it's very hard to succinctly explain it. So hopefully the new website will help with that. Facebook page is just, Detroit Collision Works, again, on Facebook. You can sign up for the newsletter on either one of those. If you're in Detroit, you can come see us. We'll be in Eastern Market, and we'll be open every Tuesday and Saturday. I think we need lots of help, and everything from just spreading the word to channeling those savvy investors our way, but also just learning from other experiences, and when people can bring my attention to other projects that are related or have shared components, that really helps me, because frankly I'm busy about 19 hours a day, either working to feed myself or working on this project, so I don't get to scope around online as often as I wish I could. So when people send me links or ideas, it's really valuable.
Okay. Well, I think that'll do it. Thank you a lot for joining us. I know you got other place to go, but we'll give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
We'll be checking back in with you maybe in a year's time, see how things are going. How about that?
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome.
All right.
All right. All right. Have fun tonight, guys. I hope you stay dry.
Bye.
Bye.